Just before we get going, I want to thank everyone for taking a courageous stand on behalf of our humanity at a time when it seems ridiculous to do so. In my personal meditation leading up to this, I called in all of my ancestors and the ancestors from the freedom movements universally, and hope that they guide me and us. And just want to thank y'all for being together in this moment and willing to lend your voice.
Thank you, Reggie.
Hey, so welcome. I'm a little bit mesmerized just looking at you all coming on. Blessings and thank you so much for being here, each of you. Oh my gosh, friends. So this is Mind Our Democracy Together. And so glad to be in caring community. Those I'm seeing right now on Zoom and friends I know are on live stream. And I just want to say right from the start, there is a growing global movement we're all part of, and it can be described as love-based activism, activism that's rooted in compassion, in caring for each other, for our living earth,
I can't see it.
future generations. And it's not new. It's really the power behind truly transformational movements of the past. I mean, think of them. Freedom for India, removing apartheid in South Africa, the civil rights movement in the United States. Love is the essential ingredient for meaningful social change. And here we are. It's just so exciting to be together and explore the immediate actions at this crucial time that we can take together, and the vision for how we can energize this movement in the coming days and years and decades. So it all arises from presence, from our capacity for true presence. And in that spirit, we wanted to begin together with a short meditation. So wherever you are, just take these moments to arrive, and you might let your attention go inward. Take a few full breaths, really breathing, letting the breath collect your attention. Full deep breaths, and just noticing what might want to let go a little as you exhale. And perhaps feeling the breath at your heart. And being aware of the state of your heart right now. Just listening inward and sensing this moment, feeling our world, whatever is here, whether it's fear or distress or anger or hope or excitement, just whatever you're noticing, and know that it's welcome, that it belongs. Just regarding with that contact and presence and care. And under whatever mood is here, just asking, what are you most caring about? What really brings you here? What is it your wise heart most longs for in our larger world? You know, what's your aspiration? Is it for growing love in our world, more justice, integrity, freedom? For these moments, just open to the sincerity of caring. And as you do, sense how many in the past are known and unknown spiritual ancestors, how many, like you, have felt love for life, love for all beings, and have cared, have sought freedom, have sought justice, a more loving world. All those in the past and all those alive now on earth, all of us here, all of those who are young or old, all identities on all continents, just feeling our great concern, our love, our wanting to repair, our wanting to heal. And all those in future generations, that same passion and care, so that you can sense yourself as a flow through this river of loving care moving through you, just belonging to these past, present, future currents, this shared heart space. L.R. Nost writes, "Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break and all things can be mended, not with time, but with intention. So go, love intentionally, unconditionally. The broken world waits in the darkness for the light that is you." And as a way of closing this meditation, to open your eyes and, if you will, go on to gallery view. And if you're live streaming right now, just to imagine and sense thousands of others, this same light of caring, the same shared river of caring moving through us all. Just sense the healing power, the beauty of remembering our belonging. And continuing to sense the spirit of that togetherness, I want to introduce our MC for the evening, my friend and colleague, Reggie Hubbard. And Reggie is a committed yoga and meditation practitioner, a teacher, and spiritual activist whose life work sits at the intersection of bringing more peace and balance to activists and guiding the spiritual community toward being more engaged, concerned citizens. Okay, Reggie, in your wise and able hands.
Tara, thank you so much for the beautiful meditation, for the kind introduction, and for hosting us, right? Your passion, compassion, and camaraderie are appreciated and cherished. And welcome all to Mind Our Democracy Together, Spiritual Action for the Midterms and Beyond. One thing that really resonates with what Tara shared is the broken world awaits in darkness for the light that is you. How beautiful is that individually, but collectively, think of the light that is shining with the hundreds that are on the Zoom feed. Look at the gallery view. And for those of you that are on live stream, thank you for lending your light to this noble cause. I come before you with gratitude as the opportunity to serve as the MC this evening, a convening of hearts and minds in service to inspire, resource, and take action in this moment and going forward. We're building a movement, y'all, as part of a continuum based on love, integrity, connection, concern for one another, and practice and action. We are Mind Our Democracy. We're a community of practitioners committed to exploring how we can reimagine a world that is more humane, kind, and as wonderfully articulated by Young Pueblo, a world that is more structurally compassionate by design. We invite you to join us on the socials, so Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Mind Our Democracy. Visit the website, mindourdemocracy.com, and sign up for our mailing list, of what use is coming together if we can't get back in touch. So please sign our mailing list, mindourdemocracy.com, join us. And we'll be meeting again in December. This isn't just a one-off, this is a spark to light the flame of transformation, and hopefully we'll be able stewards of the flame. And we're going to talk how we move forward together. So, some housekeeping details. The chat is on now. So for those of you just itching to say something in the chat, please go for it. Introduce yourself, where you're dialing in from, what's present for you, and create connection in the chat and share what's present, right? And refrain from direct messaging the speakers. No, we won't be able to see it or answer you. And y'all, we have an amazing lineup of dear teachers on this list to give you ample inspiration, food for thought, and soul food, nourishment for the soul to take inspired action. And in the lead up to tonight's event, unfortunately, our dear friend Kazu Haga is unable to join, so please send him love and light in this moment. And y'all, we're not asking you to be political. We're asking you to be compassionate and take action in service to being a force of love-based activism in the world. And that's what's most exciting about this. We get to do this together. So here's what we're asking you. We're asking you to believe that a committed group of concerned citizens has the power to transform the way we engage as a society. We're asking you to feel a part of heart-centered community at these times of transition and confusion. We're asking you to find inspiration in the remarks of our guests and share that inspiration with others. If you caught some inspiration, now send people to the live stream, youtube.com/Brach. And we're asking you to take tangible action to make a difference in this election season and beyond. If you voted already, find 3 to 5 people in your lives and circle of influence that you can compassionately, repeatedly urge to vote. And if you haven't voted, we'll ask you to make a plan and truly envision yourself as part of this movement and share your plan with others. So one more time, sign up for our email list at mindourdemocracy.com, click on join us, and let's build this beautiful love-based activist movement moment together. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Valarie Kaur is a civil rights leader and best-selling author of See No Stranger. She is the founder of the Revolutionary Love Project, which reclaims love as a force for justice. Valarie, welcome, and please share your heart with us.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. The beloved community belongs to divine oneness, and so does all that it achieves. As our sister Tara was inviting us to commune with our ancestors, was there one ancestor who came to your mind? The one who came to my back was my grandfather. Anytime I feel despair rising in my chest, I hold fast to his story. You see, my grandfather was a young Punjabi farmer who sailed by steamship from India to California in 1913. When he arrived on US soil, immigration officers took one look at his turban and beard worn as part of our Sikh faith and threw him into detention. See, it was a time of white nationalist rage where elected leaders were fueling hate and violence. Does that sound familiar? My grandfather would have been deported. I would not be here with you tonight if it weren't for the intervention of a white lawyer, a man who chose to see my grandfather as a brother and filed a writ of habeas corpus that helped free my grandfather on Christmas Eve of 1913. My grandfather settled down in the heartland of California as a farmer, and he gave his blood and sweat to this soil. Still, it took decades of organizing for him and other dark-skinned immigrants like him to win the right to vote. By the time my grandfather was finally allowed to become a citizen of the United States, he had a long, white, flowing beard. But he never missed an election. Even when he was old and frail, even when he couldn't walk, my father would scoop my grandfather up in his arms and carry him to the polls, just so he could cast his ballot. My grandfather had every reason to give up on this country, every reason. But he chose to stay in the fight. He chose to stay in the labor. For us, for me, for you. What kind of ancestor do you want to be? For here is what I know to be true, my loves. The future is dark. Is this the darkness of the tomb or the darkness of the womb? It is both. We have lost so much, we are losing so much, and yet to stand in our grief and our despair and have the audacity to lift our gaze and see what we may not be seeing before. Thousands of people, millions of people waking up to the fact that we belong to one another, being brave with our love, standing in our humanity, laboring for the world that is longing to be. That is what is giving me hope tonight. So I am here tonight because I choose to labor for that multiracial democracy that is waiting to be born. That world where we are living sustainably with the earth that is waiting to be. And I believe that every single one of us has a particular role in the labor. You see, the greatest social and political crises of our era, they are rooted in a deeper spiritual crisis, a constriction of the human heart, the choice to stand for some of us instead of all of us, in policy, in word, and in deed. And that means, yes, we need sound government and we need just institutions. And the only way those just policies will last is through a shift in culture and consciousness, a way of being, a way of seeing that leaves no one outside of our circle of care, a revolution of the heart, what I call revolutionary love. This is why I believe revolutionary love is the call of our times. That is the movement that we are building. That is the labor that we will stay faithful to. And I am so honored to be in the labor with you. And so as we head toward the election, I invite you to remember the wisdom of the midwife. Breathe, my love, and then push. Thank you so much.
Valarie, thank you so much for your share, for that heartfelt rendering of your personal story in this moment. The chat is ablaze with love for you, and I offer love and gratitude for your taking the time to be with us. Thank you, Valarie. Our next speaker needs no introduction, but I'll try and offer one. Jon Kabat-Zinn is a professor of medicine emeritus at the University of Massachusetts Medical School, where he founded its world-renowned mindfulness-based stress reduction MBSR clinic and its Center for Mindfulness in Medicine, Healthcare, and Society. He is the author of 15 books, currently in print in over 45 languages. Jon, welcome. Please share your heart with us.
So beautiful to be here. I had no idea what I was getting into. It just sounded like it was something where we were going to encourage each other to go to the polls and bring a lot of other people with us, because there's no question that the stakes in this particular election are huge. And so we do need to get ourselves and everybody else to the polls as a radical act. Now, for a community that, as I understand it, is grounded in meditative practice, let's remind ourselves perhaps that taking your seat in the morning is a radical act. Taking your seat on your cushion or on the chair and dropping into the present moment is a radical act of sanity, a radical act of love, basically. And it, of course, it doesn't end on the cushion any more than the cushion has anything to do with practice. It has to do with life itself, expressing in every moment. So it's not like we need to become radicalized. We have always been radicalized. There's no way to actually care about liberation without seeing, excuse me, how unliberated our own minds, never mind the society that we construct for ourselves, can be. And so in a way, it strikes me that it's about governance. It's about the inward governing of oneself and one's own craziness and one's own mind that's here, there, and everywhere else. And so very often, if unattended to, privileges the me, privileges my own narrative, privileges my own privileges. And instead to recognize that that's a force of ignorance and delusion operating right here in our own minds and hearts, and that it's possible to actually recognize that your awareness of it has never been caught by it. So it's not like you have to get free. It's recognizing we are already free if we actually recognize that we were never really conditioned by all of this conditioning. And that means that outwardly speaking, we can bring meditation to the world, because if we need to learn to govern ourselves, to live a life of integrity and justice and caring, then we also need to learn how to govern each other and ourselves collectively, because otherwise there's no community, there's no Sangha. And we now know on this planet that there's only one Sangha, it's the Sangha of life itself. And that our precocity is so outrageous that we're capable of actually destroying that which is that which we depend on the most in order to actually live and pass life on to future generations in a way that's actually livable. So the stakes are enormous here, and I just want to express my delight that that we started off in this kind of a way and are framing it as a kind of, if you will, movement or a developmental rising that actually is, by definition, inclusive of all beings, all humanity, and nature itself, because in the completely interconnected universe, everything is equally important in a certain way. And it's our ignorance and our self-centeredness that prevents us from seeing that. Now, when we make decisions in the voting booth, they are imperfect decisions because we are all, in some sense, imperfect and just doing the best we can. And so the challenge here, it seems to me, is that we need to act in ways that embody integrity on every level, including voting, as if our lives depended on it, because certainly our way of life and our democracy and our sense of possible freedom for all people, imperfect as it is in the way we have laws, but let's not forget, the word dharma actually means lawfulness. So we can actually work to bring a certain kind of lawfulness that transcends the laws that we're capable of getting out of the Congress at any particular moment, and actually demanding a certain kind of recognition of a lawfulness that's based on compassion, that's based on non-harming, and that's based on recognizing the Buddha nature, if you will, or the true nature or the beauty in every single one of us. And I consider that to be an absolute love affair. And so rather than being one more thing we have to do to just save the world, the very fact of engaging in the love affair is, in fact, recognizing that the world doesn't need saving. We just need to wake up.
Thank you so much, John. The wisdom, the radical act of sanity. I don't think anyone could argue that our nation, the world, needs a radical act of sanity. So thank you for your words. Thank you for lending your name and your wisdom here.
If I could say just one more thing, if I have half a minute more, looking through the gallery view and everything, I want to emphasize that the community of practice is the community of breathing beings. So we're all part of what, sort of ancient wisdom might call Indra's net, that we're completely interwoven and interconnected. And so when we take responsibility for our own, potential for wakefulness, it's infectious. It's like COVID. It's a meme that spreads throughout the society in a viral kind of way, but rather than being one that harms, it's a meme or a virus that actually generates a certain field of wakefulness and embodied freedom and compassion that is completely infectious and is exactly what I think we need on the planet at this particular moment if we're going to make it at all. And to see so many people turn out and to realize how many connections we have that are moving forward in this way, far beyond the 400 and some odd people that are here now, plus the live stream and so forth. We are part of some gigantic movement that is basically unstoppable unless we lose heart ourselves.
Thank you for that. I want to just say to that, to the notion of it being infectious, shout out to the 1,000 people on live stream, hopefully more logging on. And our next speaker needs no introduction from me. Just deep gratitude to Konda Mason for her labor in this movement writ large, but this movement specifically, Mind Our Democracy. For those who need a better introduction, Konda is a East Bay Meditation Center and Spirit Rock mindfulness teacher, passionate about social and ecological regenerative ways of living on the planet. She encourages our moral imagination in discussions concerning land, race, money, and spirit. Konda, please engage our moral imagination with your wisdom.
Okay, am I unmuted? I am. Thank you. Thank you, Reggie, and all the speakers before me. I'm feeling everyone so deeply. It's 3:23 in the morning, and I'm awake because my great-great-grandchildren won't let me sleep. My great-great-grandchildren ask me in dreams, What did you do while the planet was plundered? What did you do when the earth was unraveling? Surely you did something when the seasons started failing, as the mammals, reptiles, birds were all dying. Did you fill the streets with protests when democracy was stolen? What did you do once you knew? That is the beginning of a poem by my dear brother friend, Drew Dillinger, called Hieroglyphic Stairway. What did you do once you knew? I think about that all the time. It is my motivating factor. What did you do once you knew? This is a moment of knowing. This is a moment of waking up. This is a moment of us really becoming alive within the body politic. And people have already spoken to how crucial it is, how important it is. This love-based activism, this revolutionary love, it is a movement that has so much history, as Tara pointed out, so much history. I think about, and the ancestors, the talk of the ancestors, who came to my mind too, was my grandfather, who I never met, who was run out of Alabama by the Ku Klux Klan one night and took my father as an infant. To California, where I grew up in California. They said, get out of the South. Don't ever have to go back there. And now I live in Louisiana, in the heart of it. And it's my time to be here. It's my time to do this work. The ancestors are screaming at me. They're not whispering anymore. They are literally pushing me. And I say to you to listen, to do that deep listening, that this work, this mindfulness work that most of us hopefully are participating in, it allows us to get that space for us to listen. And if we really listen well, you may hear the voices of your ancestors who have worked so hard for the democracy that we have, this kind of democracy that we have that has never been perfect, ever. But a lot of people have worked hard. And I think about my ancestors who worked so hard for this right to vote, the right to vote as Black people, the right to vote as women in this country. It is upon us as those who spend our life energy finding compassion, developing our heart, opening our hearts to each other, to this life, to this place. If you care about the rainforests, vote. If you care about the oceans, vote. If you care about the racial wealth gap that is getting wider and wider, vote. That's what we're called to do with our care and our love and our revolutionary love, as we've been calling it. It's that time to wake up and to get involved, to act. This midterm election is crucial to our democracy. I thank you for showing up. I thank all of my other speakers, presenters. Thank you for being here and giving of your hearts as you have, for saying, yes, this is a movement. It is a continuation of a long-held movement. You're in the river of this movement right now, just by being here. Let's vote and get others to vote and create the world that we know we want. It's all possible. We can do this. Thank you.
Konda, thank you. Deep bow to your poetry, to the calling in of the ancestors, to the heartfelt share that you offered. And thank you, John. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Valarie. And y'all, and if the chat's not back on, could it please come back on? Let's just sit with the wisdom that's been shared with us thus far. Like, what's arising with you? Like, I saw during Valerie's remarks, like someone was like, thank you, I needed these words. Anyone else feeling that way, right? You know, we're coming together in community, holding joy and sorrow simultaneously so we can reimagine a heart-centered world as opposed to whatever's happening right now. But thank you all for the wisdom shared thus far. So I'll just hold space and silence for a second or so for whatever was placed in the chat with reverence. And for those of you on the live stream, just send me a telepathy. I'll pick up what you're saying, right? So just like, let's get involved in spiritual imagination and just share the excitement of what's happening right now. And let's take a pause here to transition from the space of inspiration to the realm of action. So as your resident organizer here, we want to give you some direct things that you can work on. So how will we take what we've learned in this moment and pay it forward? You can still direct people to the YouTube page or have them watch us in real time. Remembering that tonight is a movement for love-based activism, stay engaged. So let's get on our mailing list, mindourdemocracy.com, join us. Again, I'll say that for those for whom maybe you didn't hear me the first time, join our mailing list, mindourdemocracy.com/join us. We invite you, your friends, and your friends' friends to join us on the socials. We invite you to join the list, but we also, you know, now that we've heard a lot in tonight's program saying go vote, let's put some skin on that skeleton, right? So what does it mean to go vote? Oh, for many of us, that's as useful as saying go meditate and then offering no guidance. I mean, that's crazy. I sat with my brother today as he voted via phone, and it's a process that should have taken 5 minutes, took 20. But because we did it together, we were able to have inside jokes and those sorts of things and navigate the process. So it's in the spirit of making the process easier and in the spirit of integrity to community and commitment to resourcing one another here. Here's some questions I want you to consider if you haven't voted yet, or as you compassionately nudge your 3 to 5 friends to vote, or for my overachievers, you're 30 to 50, or you're 300 to 500, right? So just getting engaged people. So here's some of the questions. And all this information is on our website, mindourdemocracy.com/take action. Do you know where your polling location is? I mean, I'll share a personal story. Like, I thought, Mr. Democracy engaged, social, spiritual dude drove up to the wrong polling place to early vote. You know, I had a plan. I did my hair. I had a T-shirt on. Like, I had a plan aesthetically, but I went to the wrong polling place. Luckily, I had the flexibility in my schedule to be able to do it. But do you know where your polling place is? See, even I no. So I'm glad to be able to offer that. How are you going to get there? You're going to walk, drive, take the subway? When will you go? Morning, afternoon, evening, on the weekend, during the day of early voting, on election day? But think about it, right? So rather than make it abstract, let's bring it concrete. Let's manifest the abstract into reality. Will you bring anyone with you? Will this be a family affair? Can you take someone with you? Can you, if you've already voted, can you take someone to the polls? I see someone working in the polling place. Shout out to that. Do you need your ID to vote? Where is it? So these are some of the questions we want you to consider, right? Another thing we want you to consider is volunteer. That's also on our website, to take action on mindourdemocracy.com. You can text people, you can volunteer to take people. There's so many ways to get involved. And as John talked about, actualize our practice, take the radical act of sanity by helping more people's voices be involved in the chorus. And the last thing I'll share in terms of the brass tacks is make sure your friends and family vote. There's this thing of relational organizing. It's the most effective volunteer, because all you have to do is essentially, I think it's constructive gossip. You can be like, hey friend, guess what? I just voted and had an amazing experience. You should go do the same, right? So think of it as gossip in a way that's actually beneficial. And what I want you to consider is name 3 to 5 people right now who you're going to harass compassionately until they vote. And if you think everyone will vote, we know that's not true. Evidence has shown that. But think of the most disorganized people in your life. You know who they are. Some of you might think that's me, which is like, I'm disorganized, but I'm a creative. I can do that. There are probably people who need reminders. But now I want you to think of the most organized person that you know. Life's been crazy right now. They could have forgot, right? So just reach out to everyone. Don't take anything for granted. Like, reach out to all people and make sure that they know that, and make them show your I voted sticker. I'll show you mine. Hold on. So here's my sticker. Make them show you yours, right? Or theirs. And y'all, I even snapped a picture of myself, put it on social media, and was wearing some cool shades. I was wearing these shades. So I had a plan to even be cool when I voted, right? So you can make this as what you want it to be, but have your individual expression be for the benefit of the community, right? That's all we're asking for here. So thank you for your kind indulgence for these important facts, questions, and resources, and allow me to introduce the next speaker. Mushim Ikeda is a core teacher at the East Bay Meditation Center and a Buddhist and secular mindfulness teacher, author, and longtime racial justice activist. Mushim is also a published poet and mother. Mushim, please welcome and grace us with your wisdom.
Thank you so much, Reggie, and thank you so much, everyone. Beloved community, please join me, if you'd like, in one mindful breath. If you like, gently lift your hands, palms up on the in-breath, as though we're lifting up something precious. Then turn them over and gently press palms down on the out-breath. So let's do one breath together, because we're all connected by breath, right? One breath. Breathing in. And thank you for your practice. It occurred to me as I was listening to our previous wonderful speakers that, whoops, I prepared a talk that does not contain, I don't think, the word love. And that's because as a mother, as an auntie, as a Buddhist teacher, my world is one of love. It doesn't need to be said. Unless it does. I believe we are at a watershed in United Statesian history. In the midst of cascading crises, what environmentalists I know are calling polycrisis, P-O-L-Y crisis, unprecedented levels of stress, I believe we can see 2 distinct tomorrows. So this is not far away. Tomorrow. In one tomorrow, we continue. We continue to organize in community, to engage in principled struggle, to be mindful, thoughtful, and informed, and we vote. As spiritual people, we meditate, we do our yoga practices, we pray, and we engage joyfully with the work, the daily work of democracy. In the other tomorrow, there is little left to engage with because democracy itself has burned to the ground. Today, November 3rd, 2022, in A Closing Argument for Democracy by Tom Nichols in The Atlantic. The author spoke about President Biden, who, in his speech last night, quote, asked the rest of us to think about whether we can stop our system of government from descending into authoritarianism and violence. End of quote. I personally feel clear that in our current environment of viral disinformation and misinformation, getting out the vote is only part of what is needed. We need to understand the systems of oppression and power better. And I have faith. Together, we are creative. We are strong. We are strategic. And we are ready to see opportunities in openings. In any situation, no matter how oppressive, there are openings. And in those openings, if we're ready, there are opportunities. And we are ready to gain every learning from both endings and beginnings. Because the spiritual world is one in which everything is possible. In minding our democracy through the midterm elections and beyond, let us be alert to new possibilities, for they are assuredly present. Let us enter a state of readiness and informed action together.
Thank you so much for that wisdom. When we're ready to seize openings, and we are ready to seize openings and opportunities. I believe that. I believe with the nearly 2,000 people in real time that that's true. And I wouldn't be the organizer if I didn't say, if you haven't signed up for the mailing list yet, why haven't you done it yet? Like, please go for it. Mushim, thank you. Deep bow and gratitude for that wisdom. Our next speaker, I'd like to welcome Dan Harris. Dan Harris is the author of 10% Happier, the host of the 10% Happier podcast, and the co-founder of the 10% Happier meditation app. For 21 years, he worked at ABC News, where he anchored Nightline and the weekend editions of Good Morning America. And Dan, we'll talk about this offline, but if you worked on the Kerry campaign in 2004, I met you in that circus. So good to see you again in a less stressful circumstance. Dan, please share.
When I was covering the Kerry campaign, I was having a conversation backstage with a United States senator at one of the events, and we got into a bit of a debate about the wisdom of the Iraq War. I was against it. He was for it. And at one point, he got up and pounded my chest and said, "You're a horse's ass." And that US senator was Joe Biden. So that's that's going on my tombstone. He was correct in his diagnosis, but for the wrong reasons. I'm going to keep my remarks short, largely because I have a massive case of imposter syndrome being on the same stage as these incredible Dharma heavyweights. I'll just say that listening to all of the foregoing, I have been reminded of a recent trip that I took to India. I just got back on Friday, actually, and I spent a couple of weeks interviewing and filming with an obscure meditation teacher by the name of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama has a great expression that has really had a huge impact on me. And the expression is wise selfishness, which really appeals to me as somebody who comes by his selfishness quite honestly as a product of the capitalistic, individualistic West. And the Dalai Lama's argument is that we could co-opt this natural selfishness we all feel and do something smart with it. His argument is, given that we're all selfish, if you want to do selfishness correctly, you will have a compassionate and altruistic mindset, and you'll follow that up by compassionate and altruistic acts. Why? Because those feel good, given that we are a social species who achieved our status as apex predators, not because we're the strongest, but because we have the capacity to collaborate and cooperate and communicate. And this kind of connection with other people feels good. It's the way we were wired. And I think of this discussion tonight in that frame, that we can take this seemingly small action of going to vote, and it actually is good for the body politic, and it's good for you because it's the antidote to the powerlessness we all, or many of us, I don't want to speak for all of us, but many of us can feel watching the news, or in my case, reporting the news. Although I've now quit my job and a full-time meditation evangelist. But anyway, that's another story. Just to say that if you're feeling powerless, taking the action of voting, and even better, following it up by getting involved in groups like this one, or on the ground locally, wherever you happen to be, it gives you a sense of power and agency that can be lacking if you're just watching the headlines swim by you on Twitter. The final thing I'll say is just that the word love has been thrown around a lot. As somebody who's pretty devout anti-sentimentalist, I actually love the word love, but I like to think of it in a broad and capacious way as the evolutionarily wired capacity we all have to give a shit. And that is often papered over, actively squashed by our consumerist culture, by the tribalism that many of us can feel because we're in info silos that we curate ourselves and have no intimate connections with people with whom we disagree. I think of love in that broad way, and in that broad way, it doesn't need to seem grandiose or out of reach or something for other people or something just for the Dalai Lama. That's something that we all can do. So thank you for having me tonight, and go vote.
Deep gratitude, Dan, for the vignette and for the wisdom. And I consider myself as an avowed anti-sentimentalist as well. But love is so powerful, and love is the connecting force of the universe in the wise heart that we're seeking to unleash here tonight. So again, the broken record, if you haven't signed up yet, what's taking you so long? mindourdemocracy.com, it's in the chat. And I'll say it slower for my friends on YouTube, which is still near 1,000. mindourdemocracy.com/take-action/join us. Our next teacher, our next speaker, she and I were going back and forth in the blue-green room about like mindfulness and jazz, and I just can't wait for Ruth to hear what you have to say. And let me give you a proper introduction. Ruth King is a meditation teacher in the Theravada tradition of Buddhism, the founder of Mindful of Race Institute, weaving mindfulness-based principles with an exploration of our racial conditioning, its impact, and our collective potential. Ruth is a celebrated author of several publications, including Mindful of Race, Transforming Racism from the Inside Out. Ruth, welcome. Please share your heart.
Thank you so much. I can say that I'm bathing in the collective spirit of the offering so far, and I'm feeling tremendous gratitude for being invited and for all of the people that are joining us, and those who wanted to be with us and are not, who will watch the video hopefully and continue to serve our collective. I think what I want to say is I just want to acknowledge how enraged I feel about how things are right now. And I also want to say that the rage I feel is something I can sit with. It's a comma, it's not a period. And what you do next is so crucial. So it's not a place where I stay, or nor is it a place where I feel stuck, but it's an energetic that I allow to move through because it's a real happening when it's happening. So I'm pretty sure I'm the only one on this call that feels that way. And so I just want to acknowledge the chronic fatigue, the repetitive motion injury of my ancestors, just the fatigue that so many of us feel and have continued to work with. Democracy, in my mind, is an aspiration. It's not a fact. It's not there. It's not like we had it and we lost it. It's always something that we're working on, and we're not there yet. It's an existing system that was never really established with everybody in mind, so we have to make it so. You know, the act of voting is strategic and it's systemic. It's necessary in that regard because who gets elected literally impacts our day-to-day livelihood and our capacity to humanize and harmonize with ourselves. So it's a potent medicine to vote. And it's something many people have died for, many people continue to struggle for. I'm interested in us being educated voters. I want us to be conscious voters, to know what's on the ballot, to have a practice of studying the ballot, to know who you're voting for and what they stand for, to maybe use the paramis or some of the ways, our precepts to kind of evaluate strategically and shrewdly who you're voting for and what they stand for. It's like Loretta Ross, who is the human rights activist, said, if it protects human rights, that's a system you need to build. If it violates human rights, that's a system you need to work to deconstruct. So it's important to think systems and structures that have this ripple effect that impacts our lives. I think these things are really important. I think we all inherit the unresolved of our ancestors. What they didn't finish, we embody. And through our practice of being still and being present, we can feel the truth of our inheritance. And it calls us, as Konda was saying, it calls us to a certain order. It calls us to a certain dignity and a deeper truth that really touches us in the heart in a really, really profound way. We need to embody the notion of spiritual practice, of love, of heartfulness through our actions. We've heard about that being an act of Sangha. So what's on the ballot? Can you take the time to really know it intimately? Can you see where greed, aversion, delusion is playing and see if that can't be uprooted through your choices? We're seed cells. We're planting seeds all the time. They're gonna bloom. And I saw something on Facebook that said, voting is not a Valentine, but a chess move. So when we don't have to love every aspect of the person to know that the act itself is strategic and it's about planting seeds that will bloom. That's what I love about this movement we're all here talking about. So I'll just leave you with that. And I also just want to say this last thing. If how you're voting doesn't go your way, it doesn't mean we've lost. It means we're still in a river together. I like what Tara and I talk about often, holding hands in this river together where we can't see clearly, but we're in it together and we're moving and swimming and in service to care. As hard as it might be, the heart is surrendered and open, and the eyes are wide as well. So thank you. Be a light and remember to vote. Thank you.
Ruth, thank you so much for that acknowledgement of fatigue and rage, which is completely justified. And if we hold those with wisdom in community, they become lighter. So thank you for giving voice to that in community. Thank you for the mention of the precepts and like the mention of how we might embody practice. And thank you for that last line though. Like voting is not a Valentine, it's a chess move.
Okay.
And see, right.
I hear the jazz playing now. I want to hear the jazz.
That's right.
I
Thank
hear music.
Ruth, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank
And-
you, all of you.
Absolutely. So transitioning towards our conclusion, dear ones. So before we bring Thanissara on to close us out with a meditation, I'd love to acknowledge each of you. So thank you, dear viewer, both live on the live stream and those who see us on the recording. Thank you for your heart, for your engagement. There were upwards of like 1,500, 2,000 people at the same time talking about this stuff. No crickets, right? Like more of a symphony of engagement. So like deep bow of gratitude to each of you for showing up. Thank you to each of you who signed up and couldn't make it for whatever reason. Thank you for the intention. And again, broken record, but with heart and grace. MindOurDemocracy.com. Take action is where you find what to do. Mind Our Democracy, join us is how you can sign up for our mailing list when we re-engage in about a month or so. And we want to turn out for November 8th, and we're building momentum for long term. So we need you. You belong, and we look forward to re-engaging with you. You can learn more on Mind Our Democracy on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And we're going to be playing again. So just know that this is not just a drop in the bucket. This is a drop in the river that we're holding hands together as we seek to reimagine our shared humanity. So with that, one other thing before I welcome Thanissara is that when she finishes her meditation, we want you all to stay on and engage. Like share what's present with you, like what came alive for you. What are you leaving behind? Right? So like, what are you carrying with you forward? What are you leaving behind that you brought to Sangha that doesn't serve anymore? We want to know, we want you to re-engage. And so the chat will be on after the meditation. And we hope that you have and I'm the organizer, so we hope that you connect as we seek to connect with you. And with that, I'd like to introduce our final speaker. Another wonderful mover and shaker behind this is Thanissara. Thank you. Lovely to have you here. A former Buddhist monastic meditation teacher and co-founder of the Dharmagiri Retreat Center in South Africa and the Sacred Mountain Sangha in California. She's the author of Time to Stand Up, a Buddhist manifesto for Earth, a poet and climate activist. Thanissara, blessings, welcome. Please take us home.
Thank you so much, Reggie, and greetings, dear friends. Thank you all for being here. And at this time when we're invited to be more authentic and real than ever before. So yes, I would like to wrap us up and around in a meditation and just moving towards that touch into the larger zeitgeist of this moment. I have a few comments on that. So we are in a post-business as usual world. If we haven't made that shift yet, we are needing to make it very quickly now. So I believe that together we need to understand the implications of this so we can better embody and act on its reality. This means shifting at all levels of our life so that together we can explore and embody what this new curriculum means and align with it so we can implement what needs to be done, much of which we've already heard so beautifully from our friends and speakers. In the larger context of our global planetary emergency, this decade is the decider of whether we will increase or undermine the odds of our ability to inhabit a more inclusive and sustainable world. So this decade is critical. It's that consequential. And at the heart of this imperative, of course, as we're all focused on, is the importance of democracy. So thank you all for voting and engaging to the level that you can at the moment. And let's just keep increasing and deepening our engagement as we move on, whatever happens next week, to increase our odds within this evolutionary moment. And it is true that in the recorded memory of humanity, while we have met and survived great catastrophes, for the most part, we're in uncharted territory. However, we have powerful teachings, practices, guidance from the intuitive wisdom of the heart, and myriad courageous examples of overcoming oppression to uplift all. And we have the potent power of organizing through collaborative alliance. So I'm very glad that so many of us are joining forces to further the movement of love-based activism. This is really the shift we need to make. So right now, as we begin to move towards the ending of this beautiful session, let's take a breath and let's align with our heart's deepest intention while invoking the support of all realms to galvanize wise and effective action at this time. Invoking all the awakened ones, the protectors, the Davic and elemental beings who guard and protect Earth, the spirit of Grandmother Nature, and the mysterious intelligence manifesting all. Aligning within this timeless stream of awakening. Take a moment to breathe in its sweet dew nectar through your whole being. Is present, timeless, ever here and now. Suffusing your whole body with this sweet dew nectar, healing, transforming. And on an out breath, releasing the old wounds and stories and ancestral pain that no longer serves. Let us call on all beings at this time to join this river of evolutionary awakening, to suffuse all with a stream of golden healing light, dissolving all obstructions, releasing old stories that endlessly cycle through suffering. So with our breath, I invite you all breathing in deeply, suffusing healing awareness, breathing out, releasing. I invite you all to hold in your mind's eye all beings breathing together. Together, suffusing all with the healing light of awareness, filling all with love as we elevate our collective consciousness, suffusing this beautiful earth and her sacred web of life. May all be protected during this critical election week and beyond. And breathing out, releasing whatever obstructs, transforming all shadows. By the power of this prayer and the wholesome prayers of all living beings, together we offer our collective intention to be of service. Joining the song of the universe, breathing deeply, I invite you to join, sending this prayer so it may travel to wherever it's needed now. May all be well, may all be free, may all know peace. Thank you so much. Sending so much love.